It says, meanwhile, her son got into legal troubles of his own and was convicted of first-degree murder in 2005. I remember when this happened too, for stomping to death a man hired to clean the family's property. William Nesler killed Davis less than an hour after he was released from a 30-day sentence for an earlier assault on him. He is serving a 25-year to life sentence. It's a sad story. And you have to look at why this kid was so angry. And I take it back to the molester. I blame the rapist for this kid's anger. I blame the rapist for this kid doing what he did to this guy and essentially going to jail. He had a part in it. He ruined this kid's life. And I don't think that rapists really understand the magnitude of their actions. I don't think that they understand the weight that that action carries. It carries a huge, huge weight on the victim. And a lot of times people that have become rapists were once raped by someone, and so you end up, the cycle continues. I understand that. It doesn't take away from the reality of carnage that it leaves behind. It doesn't take away from the reality of all the pain that this person now has to carry because of something that you did. You know? It's really sad. And I have pulled a story about a woman in the Congo. As most of you know, I'm sure if you keep up with the news, that women in Congo and certain other countries in Africa are, especially back in like 2003, around that time, women were being raped at a moment-to-moment basis. It wasn't even like on a daily rate, it was like from moment to moment women were being raped, and many times gang raped. Sometimes it wasn't even just like, some guy who just saw her walking and, I'm going to grab her and get her. No, it was like, 5 dudes, 10 dudes, whatever, on some young girl. It's gotten a little bit better now, because at first they weren't even punishing these guys. They weren't putting them in jail. It was sort of like the women just had to live with it. And so I think with the outcry of people around the world, now they realize, these primitive idiots realize that you can't do that, really, and it's not okay to do that, and you have to stop these guys from doing that. So I'm going to go grab a story that I pulled yesterday that deals directly with how things have changed, the things that are still going on in Africa in particular with regards to rape, and the new thing that's going on in Africa with regards to rape, and it's directly related to lesbians. For some reason, like I said, these people are kind of primitive, and for some reason, some of them believe that they can F the homosexuality out of these lesbian women. I mean, go figure. I'll be right back. Okay, so I came back with some more information regarding the rapes in South Africa, and then I'm going to get back to the American rapists. God knows we have problems of our own, but here's a story of a girl in Africa, and there's a picture of her. She just looks angry, and she looks hurt, and she's 30 years old now, but she gives a little bit of background about her story and what she went through being the victim of a rapist. She was 8 years old and playing hide and seek at a cousin's house when another distant relative, who was about 15 at the time, convinced her to hide under the couch with him. He then lay on top of her, pressing down hard on her small frame. He lifted her skirt and entered her, she said. I was crying, but he slapped me and threatened to beat me more. Now 30, Fumana was too embarrassed and confused at the time of the incident to tell anyone. I was afraid of what my mother would say, and I was also afraid of the one who raped me. Fumana's shame and the guilt she felt led to troubled teenage years. I became very promiscuous. I had so many boyfriends. If I saw a man that I was attracted to, I would do everything I could to have sex with him that day. She says, explaining how she eventually contracted HIV/AIDS through unprotected sex. This thing has happened to me when I was 8. It destroyed my life. And that's why I made this video, because, as I said before, I cannot believe that an organization would come out and say that Rihanna's video was too violent. Rape is violent. And not only is it violent, it's a death sentence. It's a death sentence to your spirit. And that's what rape does to a lot of women. Sometimes, I mean, not everybody's wired the same, and sometimes it's very difficult for a woman to get past that act, you know, and a lot of times she's trying to rid herself of that memory however she can. And as you see with this story, I mean, this is just one story, but it's one of many stories, and women just trying to find a way to sort of release, purge what's happened to them. There's also a new kind of rape going on in South Africa to lesbian women, and it's called corrective rape. For some reason, these primitive idiots, some of them think that they can correct the homosexual preferences of a lesbian by raping her. So let's get into this story, and this is from the Telegraph in the UK. It says, lesbians living in South Africa are being subjected to corrective rape and severe violence by men trying to cure them of their sexual orientation. A report by the national NGO ActionAid, backed by the South African Human Rights Commission, said the horrific crimes against lesbians are going unrecognized by the state and unpunished by the legal system. So if you as a woman in South Africa, let me just say this, you as a woman in South Africa should be armed. You should be armed, especially if you are a lesbian woman. You should be armed, and you should be ready to unload and then get out of Dodge, because you don't want to spend not one day, not 1 second in jail because you killed some lowlife who thought that he could F you into heterosexuality.